the underlying problem that Europe has, the United States has, and most countries around the world have, is there's too much debt. And what central banks are trying to do is debase their currencies to make the burden of that debt less of a problem for the countries that owe that money. So in the United States, for example, the national debt now is about $19 trillion. If interest rates were to rise 1% over the course of a year, that would increase the interest expense, approximately $190 billion, maybe a little bit less. And as a consequence of, say, a fair rate of interest, 5 or 6%, you would increase the interest expense burden of the U.S. government by $1 trillion. And the government only has $3 trillion of revenue during the course of the year. They're not going to cut spending in other areas to pay that extra interest expense, which means they'd go out and borrow more, interest rates would go up, and then you go into a hyperinflationary spiral. So what they're trying to do is to keep this present monetary system afloat. That's the bottom line. And it's not sustainable. And I think the thing that everybody needs to consider is that, I mentioned before that gold has this 5,000-year history. And there have been monetary problems before throughout history, and eventually we always come back to gold because people recognize what the advantages are. We've been off the gold standard in the United States since 1971. We recognize all of the problems that we now have when you eliminate the discipline that gold imposes on the monetary system. So when this present system changes, we're going to go back to gold in some way. And the question is what do we do to protect ourselves in order to be prepared for these changes that are coming? And again, if gold is going to be at the center of the new system, you have to own some gold.